Welcome back. Brand new TV show spoiler review here on Max Talks Movies. We're going to break down episode 2 of She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, with the episode being titled Superhuman Law. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, ring the bell. I do these types of TV show reviews every single week, including She-Hulk every single Thursday, as well as other movie reviews, box office breakdown show every single Monday, and movie rankings. So please subscribe, ring the bell if you're new to the channel. Also, please comment down below. Did you like this episode more than the first episode? Are you into She-Hulk? Are you not into She-Hulk? Again, another shocking thing. Shocking in quotations. That is a very divisive show. So let me know, where do you stand on She-Hulk 2 of 9 into the show? And then please like the video, guys. Thumbs up on that to support the channel. So as I said, this is a spoiler review. All the reviews coming from She-Hulk for me are spoiler breakdowns. So if you've not seen either episode 1 or episode 2 of She-Hulk, go away, watch those episodes, and come back here to the channel. I last week did episode 1, the very season premiere of the show, and now we're going to do episode 2. So this episode, Jen, after turning in She-Hulk publicly, is at a point where she's now no one wants to hire her. She's kind of become a side attraction thing, and she doesn't like it. She's worked her whole life just to become a lawyer, and she just wants no part of the superhero life. And you can feel that throughout this episode, where she's basically, it's this, a lot of the hidden elements of the show is telling someone to do something and when it's up to you. And she would rather choose when to be She-Hulk and when not to be She-Hulk. And when her boss forces her to be She-Hulk just to go to work, it shows you the difficult position that she is in. And then she is placed into, she's repping a very complicated client, which is the person behind me, which is Tim Roth, back as Emil Blonsky, aka the Abomination. So a lot to talk about here in this episode. So let's get into my general thoughts, and we'll break down the episode. My general thoughts are I actually like this episode a lot more than the first episode. I was a really mixed bag for me with the first episode. I still stand by it. I do think that this is one of the best castings of a superhero that the MCU maybe has ever had. In the top 5 for me. Tatiana Maslany is Jennifer Walters. She is She-Hulk, and she just feels so perfect in the role. And that continues in this episode, including her friendship with Nikki, who's played by Ginger Gonzaga. Also, they have great chemistry together. Now, while I didn't find this episode like hilarious, and the show is for me missing comedy more than it is making me laugh, I will say that this episode flowed a lot better structurally, just from a script organization point, moved much faster than last week's episode. I think last week's episode was just a bit just kind of all over the place. It just felt super rushed. Now, this episode, I wouldn't say, I don't think it feel rushed, which is a huge improvement over last week, because I felt last week was just super, super rushed. And I like this kind of dynamic for her, where she doesn't want to be a superhero, wants to be a lawyer, and she gets the kind of the complete opposite of both. She can only be a lawyer if she is a superhero now at this point. And I thought that to be pretty interesting. They obviously keep putting, more talk about what it's like to be a woman in the workplace, and how I do feel like that was a bit stronger in episode 1 than it was here. It felt very forced in this episode, trying to add that into the episode as compared to episode 1, where I feel like it did feel kind of relatable. I found this one to be really forced, in my opinion. So let's get into what happens in this episode. So as I said, Jen opens up the episode. She's looking for jobs, and she's all over the place. She goes to a bar, and so she's She-Hulk in the bar. She's just kind of looked at differently. They give her the name She-Hulk, which her cousin told her last week that they would name you, and it's not really up to you. She's obviously not very happy with it. She's not very happy that she doesn't have a job. She goes to her family's house, and they keep talking about how she's been fired. And then she goes to the bar, and Holden Holloway is played by Steve Coulter, who runs this whole, superhuman lawyer kind of department. The person who she unbiasedly won in their case at the end of the first episode, he hires her, and she's of course just right away like, yes, I'll do it, I'll accept the role, I'll see you on Monday. And then when she shows up, he's like, actually, you're going to be heading the superhuman attorney area of our company. We need a superhuman person to be the lawyer of these superhuman people, which I found, again, really good world building in this episode. And that's when it kind of feels a bit awkward in not the forced way. You have Holden basically telling her, like, you have to turn She-Hulk or you're not going to be here. So she's basically in the workplace just limited to just being She-Hulk. So I do feel like that's another, that I felt like it worked with, had a good commentary on when it's something is your choice and when something is not at your choice, and how, yes, she can obviously turn in and out of She-Hulk whenever she wants, but she wants to have that feeling when she's really forced to be something that she's not, it affects her. And that's why I thought they did a good job with this episode, especially as a woman, as in the comics, and I guess they're trying to portray this in the show, how, She-Hulk's the way sexier, more attractive version of this, and she feels like that she just wants to be valued on Jennifer Walters, not being She-Hulk. So I do feel like that part of it really worked. But then he's like, you first client is the Abomination, Emil Blonsky, and she's kind of like, this is a kind of a conflict of interest. He tried to kill my cousin a decade ago, and he's like, it doesn't really matter. Settle your issues and then go talk to him and make this official. So this is when Jennifer calls Banner, and Banner's in the Sicarian ship. And this is she has the meeting with Emil first. So she has this meeting with Blonsky, and she actually just she walks in as She-Hulk because, again, it's her job, but they tell her, actually, you can't do that in this one. She's Jen Walters talking to Emil Blonsky. We get the return of Tim Roth. It's the first time we've seen Tim Roth. We've seen the Abomination, as the show hints at, was a cameo in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. But it's the first time we see Tim Roth in now 14 years since the events of The Incredible Hulk, which I did rewatch the day before the first episode of She-Hulk aired. So I'm really caught up on the Abomination area. And some people think they're retconning some of the things that he said, and I don't think that was true. It was actually a interesting this is a mixed bag for me, this conversation. The idea of Emil seeing himself as like a victim in the situation seems really interesting, and why Jen would be interested in trying to help out this person. I just felt like they made Abomination a joke. I mean, Emil was a total like badass in The Incredible Hulk. He's no nonsense. He's a bit off, and that's why Ross hires him to go after the Hulk and puts a super soldier serum in him. But he's a laser-focused military, one of the highly touted military soldier. And to see him go from that to, like, he's just talking about haikus and the accent's different, it just kind of threw me for a loop. That for sure, the retcon, like the accent, him doing haikus, seeing Emil Blonsky like do jokes was not for me. And I feel like this was one of the bigger wastes of a character with Ronnie, because his whole point is actually correct. He was put into the super soldier serum. He was seen as a military person to go after someone, which was his job, which happened to be Hulk. And it ended up that they put so much serum in him, then he did the thing with Mr. Green at the end of the movie. Mr. Blue, played by Tim Blake Nelson, where he turns into Abomination, but he's looked at as the villain and Hulk's looked at as this hero. I like that story a lot, but half of this conversation for me was about that, which is him being like, I mean, it took me so much super soldier serum. I was a part of the military, supposed to go after someone, and I became the villain, which I did like a lot. But then it came into like doing the haiku bit and doing jokes. It felt this was only forced part joke-wise. It felt really jokey, and I wasn't laughing whatsoever, because if you watch The Incredible Hulk and then you watch this episode, they feel like two completely different performances. And Roth has talked about publicly how he is looking at this as two different characters. And we're in the MCU, and this is not a recasting. This is not Edward Norton to Mark Ruffalo. This is still Tim Roth. So this should still be the same character. And it is a totally different character, which I'm not a huge fan of. So they have this conversation. She seems sold that she's going to help Abomination. And then Jen talks to Banner, who's in the Sicarian ship. He's now leaving Earth to handle some things in Sakaar, which I really hope we see, if not in this show, in something else. And she's like, she goes through this whole thing. It was a really funny conversation. Again, Jen and Ruffalo and Maslany have great chemistry. They do feel like family. Great conversation. And this then leads to her taking on the Abomination. But this is when we end the episode with Jen being on the phone, told him like, we're doing it. I got it. I'm ready to go. And then he's like, turn on the news. And they're all talking about how Abomination snuck out of prison to do those underground fights that we saw in Shang-Chi with Wong. How he had to escape. Wong, I guess, helped him escape prison to do this. So that's another hurdle for Jen to tackle, which I probably is where Wong will probably get into the show. I've not gotten the screeners, so I'm with you guys on it. So I don't know if when Wong is in the show, but I think it'll be interesting when Wong comes in. Why is it okay for Wong to let kind of Abomination do these fights? We shall see. And hopefully this is not Abomination becoming a good guy, because I really think he should be a really valued element of Julia Louis-Dreyfus's Thunderbolts team, which seems to be lining up for a movie in, next year. And I really think Abomination should be a part of that. So that's my thoughts. And we get a post-credit scene. It's just like the recap of the another bit with the family, which I thought was just not funny. So that post-credit scene for me just did not work. But overall, I had a really good time with this episode. The 29 minutes with credits like absolutely flew by. The dynamic of choosing when and when being, when it's a forced decision versus your own decision. There's a lot of different hidden themes I think need to be explored on a larger scale in the show. I'm not sure the show has time for these big time life goals and messages, but this is still perfect casting of Tatiana Maslany, and I'm still thoroughly enjoying the show, but I need something to happen in a big way to make me love this show. I'm enjoying it. It's not as funny as I think the show thinks it is, in my opinion. And I know comedy's subjective, but it just isn't that funny to me. So I'm very excited to keep watching the show. I'm liking the show, and I like this episode a lot more than episode 1. Where episode 1, I'd probably give like a 2.5 or a 3. I would give this a 3.5 for sure. So that's my thoughts on this episode. I'll be back next Thursday breaking down the new episode in the next, let's call it 6 weeks. The next 6 weeks breaking down She-Hulk. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section. More videos, including box office breakdowns, movie reviews, coming out soon.